going to be next? And that's how I've kind of landed the role with technology. Do we have like 1,000 people watching live?
I don't know how many. There are people watching. David
Excellent.
Miller, I see you're on there. David, what's up, buddy? You need to come out here and you need to come on the show. You'd be a good one.
Is he an accountant?
Oh, Darren just said something. So Ryan's wife, Darren, is sitting on our hammock on my front porch, also watching this, making sure that we sound okay.
Yeah.
And she just sent in like the crying, laughing emoji.
Excellent. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks, hon. Yeah, so tell the people what you do now. So you moved away from actual accounting, and now what do you do?
Now I'm in a very technology-focused role where, again, it's going to sound pretty dry, but I implement indirect tax.
This is the Sahara Desert of podcast episodes.
Indirect tax software integrated into large financial accounting systems.
I've been planning that since you said you wanted to be on the podcast. Putting a throw up noise somewhere in your career description.
Yeah. So that is me. That's who I am.
Yeah. And you're on the road outside of a pandemic. You're on the road 4 or 5 days a week.
4 days a week. The typical consultant schedule: first flight out Monday, last flight back Thursday.
Yeah.
Whatever city the client is in. So I've been Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey. I think that's it. A little stint in North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's where I've been, all in 2 years.
Yeah, we've been having interesting discussions on your trip here because in my role currently at FIS, I'm like selling consulting projects for FIS. So you're like, I'm different types of projects, but I would be like the one selling the projects you're on. And it's an interesting dynamic where I know a little bit what you're doing. You know a little bit what I'm doing.
Right.
And even though we don't really do anything similarly, we can connect on that.
And we've never really talked about it either. Like in all the times that we kind of like catch up, it's never the first thing on our list to say, hey, like, how's work going? Which I'm glad. I'm glad that like we typically brush past like, how's work going? How's your week been? We typically jump forward to better things.
Yeah, but, I need 3 days to exhaust everything else to get to that.
Exactly.
Because I'm way more concerned about like, wedding planning for you guys, or like what's Darren doing, or like what's it like living in downtown Minneapolis than I am like your current accounting system project.
Exactly. Yeah. How's the team doing? Yeah. No, don't care about that.
How's New Jersey?
Yeah.
That was a long one you were on.
Yeah. That was a full year. How's New Jersey? How's having Jersey Mike's in New Jersey?
Is it good? Is there an original spot?
Yeah, it's somewhere on the Jersey Shore. So,
did you go?
No, it was far away from where I was. I was in like north central New Jersey, about 45 minutes west of New York City. So I was a ways in.
Can we take some time to appreciate what in the world the show Jersey Shore was? I've been seeing some clips on social media from them, from like their T-shirt time thing that they had.
Yeah.
Like that is, what years were that around? That was like our high school years, right?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, like.
Anybody out there?
Anybody out there?
Anybody out there?
Crack a cold one.
In cyberspace, that'd be like a 90s radio show thing.
We haven't even touched on it. It's Labor Day weekend.
Oh yeah, it's Labor Day weekend, people.
God bless
honor
America.
Those. What do we honor on Labor Day? Workers.
Workers, and I think in a global pandemic, it's right to toast to the frontline workers, healthcare workers. Yeah. So let's crack these open.
Yeah, Taylor, my dear girlfriend, is not working tonight. She's at her cabin, like a good American, but she is a frontline worker. All you nurses out there, thank you for welcoming babies into the world, for testing people for COVID, for curing people of COVID, and just, deciding that, Ryan, you and I talked about this, deciding that you want your job to the potential that there could be death in it.
Yeah.
Ryan and I's worst day ever. I could call up the biggest account I have and say, fuck you. And no one's dying.
No one's dying. We're not saving lives.
No one's dying.
Yeah.
Nurses and doctors, if they do the wrong thing, somebody might die.
Yeah.
And I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast with Taylor, is my stress level at work has gone so far down since I started dating her. Because, like, we come back from work, oh, how'd work go? Like, what'd you do? I'm like, oh, I'm stressed. This deal, like, these clients are frustrating. She's like, oh, yeah, like, I had a mom that hemorrhaged with a baby that was only 30 weeks old. And the baby we had to do CPR on, and the baby barely lived. And then I had to run 5 floors down to the blood center to get a shit ton of blood so the mom stayed alive. And she's sprinting around, and the mom survives. And I'm just like, oh shit, what I'm doing is nothing.
I got stressed over a PowerPoint today. So
today?
No, not today, but like
oh yeah,
in that conversation on a work day. Yeah.
Nothing. Nonsense.
No.
So we just all need anybody in corporate America, take a chill pill, okay?
Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah. Nothing we're doing actually matters. Everybody stays alive in our work scenarios. Mostly. Like, I don't know, if you do like really, really bad job, probably.
What would be a bad job in corporate America that involved
the death could come?
Death. I don't think it exists.
We don't want to go there on this podcast. That's a pretty dark avenue.
We'll leave it at that.
But just the point being that I think we kind of view like nurses, doctors, medical workers as just like the fact that it's a good career or they're good people, but like it's a whole deeper level of they could actually interact with death.
Well, yeah, and it's our experience with a doctor is, you check your ears, say, check your tongue, and that's what we
cough.
have. Yeah,
the cough.
Yeah. That's our experience, right? Like
that's chill.
That's chill. It's very chill, low stress. But what they have to deal with or what they could be faced with on a daily basis, even in routine operations, routine to them is having someone's life in their hands.
Yeah. And Taylor and labor and delivery nurses specifically
bringing new life to the world.
Bringing new life into the world. Exactly. Have you seen the Adam Driver meme? It's like they take all these lines from him, and one of them is like a movie where he's not Star Wars.
Do you like Adam Driver as a villain in the Star Wars movies?
I like him as Kylo Ren. I wish they'd have had more of him as Ben Solo. I'm not big on the sequel trilogy. There, I said it.
I don't like it.
A Stories from Mountain Time exclusive. Tyler Meany does not like the sequel trilogy.
I'm not a fan
of the sequel trilogy.
No, him as the bad guy, I think brings the whole trilogy down. It wrecks it for me.
But it's not him as the actor. It's because they position Kylo in a weird place.
What other movies is he in? I'll need to watch other work that
I'll be honest, I don't even know.
Well, so how do you know?
Well, his facial structure is very similar to like young Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford lives out here. He lives not very far from here. He's a Jackson resident. But he looks like a really young Harrison Ford, and they kind of cast him for that reason. But it got all funky when, Snoke is seen as the big baddie in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and spoiler alert, then Kylo kills Snoke, but we still don't know anything about Snoke.
Right.
And we're like, wait, so he's not the big baddie.
The story development was off, and I'll give it that like pulled the trilogy down, but you're still dealing with characters. I guess that ties into it. The character development for me was off. Mm-hmm. And the character choices, their casting, I think was off.
Really?
I think him being cast in that role, James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, that makes your everything.
He's just the voice. A different dude was in the suit.
Okay, he's the voice, but who do you know as Darth Vader? James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You said it before I did.
Han Solo, Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Perfect casting to keep me focused during the day.
Yeah. So my ADD I like I have sometimes I have some videos playing often when I work, but it's not really a thing of like any real sort of storyline because I'll hop
Yeah.
into it and I watch it and it's just interesting and then I'm like, oh, I've just lost 30 minutes.
Watch it like 25 times, and then that goes away. You just got to get past that point.
What I've been doing recently is, and I've been playing some of the music for you. It's a thing called lo-fi. There's all these streams on YouTube called like lo-fi or like study music or something. And it's just like these like kind of, it's like a mix between like R&B and jazz beat where they have a little bit of a beat, no lyrics. And then they'll have like, 2 hours worth of songs back to back to back.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of that ambient noise, a little bit of ambiance, a little bit of something to just like give you some emotion. Like we were saying is like.
And didn't you say they try and match the beats to like the optimal level of focus that you should be having when you're working?
No, that was different. That's for like house concerts, like EDM concerts.
Right.
There's a certain beats per minute number that once the DJ is hitting that, it like syncs up with our heart rate, and it's the perfect level to do a rave at.
Okay.
That was different than studying or working.
Sure.
Partying.
Party.
But yeah, but that's a cool piece too.
Yeah.
That there's something more to our bodily rhythms than what meets the eye. Maybe there's something there.
Something there.
Yeah. Should we get back into mountain stuff?
Let's do it. We haven't spent enough time on mountain stuff.
No. So where were we? We went to Yellowstone, or did we talk about Yellowstone?
We talked about Yellowstone and seeing the big three: the moose, the elk.
Tell them where we went, like our path.
So Yellowstone, I learned a lot about Yellowstone. I'm very not embarrassed, but I will admit that I knew so little about just Yellowstone. To me was bison and open plains with mountains everywhere. And I had no idea that I never made the connection between the Yellowstone volcano and kind of these, Old Faithful and just a lot of the very unique things that Yellowstone has to offer. And so getting to see the portion that I did kind of showed me all of that. But Yellowstone, to access it, has a figure 8 shaped path to drive. And you're able to kind of hit either the lower circle, the upper circle, the whole thing, and there's stops all along the way to kind of make it convenient to see all of the attractions. And so we focused on kind of the lower loop, the lower circle, whatever you'd like to call it. Unfortunately, there was a road closure, so we couldn't make it the whole way around, but we ended up seeing there was a lake coming in that was really prominent. There was a
Yellowstone Lake.
Yellowstone Lake.
We went past 11 here. So we just Google search map of Yellowstone.
Yep.
You cannot see it on the phone, but yeah. So Yellowstone Lake is the largest lake, like above 6,000 feet or something.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Yeah.
And they don't allow boats on there. Like very few boats are allowed out there. Just surrounded by enormous mountains.
Yeah, and then from there we saw Old Faithful. Excuse me. First, artist paint pots, and
Grand Prismatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as much as I dislike how busy it was when we were there, I think every American needs to do this. 'Cause this is really the last. There's a few places, Alaska's wild. There's places in Wyoming that are really wild. Yellowstone is really like one of the last places of real wilderness.
Except for these roads, there's nothing.
Yeah. And we're looking at the roads, and when you saw it, like there's a loop around the middle,
yep.
And there's roads to all the entrances, but that's it. In between all the roads, there's not anything. There's some hiking trails. There's a lake. There's rivers, but there's just wilderness.
Yep. It's an amazing place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this map, and I picked this one specifically because you can see the volcano.
Yeah.
So the route we took, we went up, if you know anything about Yellowstone, we came in the south gate from Jackson, went to the left on the loop, and that's kind of geyser alley is what they call that. So all the stuff we saw was geysers, hot springs, all of that, because you see how far into the volcano we are on that stretch. So that's where all the heat's coming from.
Yep.
So you've heard this in the podcast before. The Yellowstone volcano is a supervolcano, and it erupts every 10,000 to 14,000 years, and we are just over 10,000 years since the last eruption. So scientists think that scientists predict that it could erupt any day now.
Could have happened the day we were out there.
Could have. And this thing, I don't know how many miles that is, but that's bigger than the loop we would have driven. They say all of Yellowstone is like the size of like New Hampshire or some shit.
Right.
Some state.
Yeah.
That's like a big section of it. This is a volcano that's like as big as like the Twin City metro area.
It's probably at like maybe 100 miles. If you were to drive in a road all the way around, 100 miles, 80 miles.
Yeah, what's the word for that? Circumference? Circumference, yeah. Well, I mean, so what did we say? It was 60 from my house to Old Faithful.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that. I'd be okay saying that.
We probably went about 40 miles into the park, which was 0.11 to 0.4. It was like 40-ish miles. So I'd say that's darn near close to 100, just that loop, the lower loop around. Mm. You stretch that out to the estimated perimeter of the volcano, at least 100 miles.
What I want to know, I've never learned this. We should look this up. Is that the mouth of it? Are we saying that's the mouth of the volcano? Or are we just saying, what are we saying with that boundary?
So I think a supervolcano is different than a normal volcano. Mm. I don't think there's like this big, triangle-shaped volcano under the earth that then its top is that circumference. I think it's...
Oh, wait. This just came back to me when you were explaining that.
Yeah.
That's a bed of magma.
Yeah, I think it's different.
That's worse than what I was thinking.
Right.
It's a bed of magma under some bedrock that is that size.
Right.
So I guess you could say it kind of is the mouth, because the mouth of a regular volcano would have like if that was above the ground, that would be the opening. But if it's underground, it's just a bed of magma within bedrock and layers of other sediment.
I think so.
And I'm not confident that's correct.
But
that's what I've heard.
As you stare into me blankly, not quite positive.
Still, though, live every day to the fullest, because scientifically it could blow at any moment.
Yeah.
Say some things. The phone's being weird. Let's see what's going on.
Well, this is our first test of doing this live.
But we had 22 viewers.
And I'm glad that you're all here with us, hopefully still with us, live. Talking about the supervolcano. Really an unfortunate time for this type of thing to be happening, because this is, as you just described, a very prescient conversation. Could happen any day. Again, not totally sure. The shape of the supervolcano will maybe come back. Tyler, do you have a blog for this podcast? I think we need a little place to put the show notes in the future.
I don't do that.
Where I think your listeners deserve to know the exact structure of the Yellowstone supervolcano. But all that aside, seeing Yellowstone, having this weekend here in Jackson, that was really the first major day that we had. Thursday we came in. We were all at work. We're working. I took class Thursday morning. Darren had to work. You had to work. So I think it wasn't until the afternoon that we really got going. When we went in and saw town, had some beers, had kind of just a casual day, and got ready for Friday, which was our day at Yellowstone. And so that was pretty amazing. That was a big day, a long day. Saturday, we got out onto doing some vertical, which was exceptional, exceptionally challenging. We went up in Teton Village, the famous gondola. We hiked up to where it meets at, I think, 9,045 feet. I
think it's below 9. but it's 8,000. It's up there.
I think it's above 9. But anyways, first weekend here, I might know. Above all, that led me to experience the famous waffles at the top of the bridge or gondola.
The famous ones. They're usually at the top of the tram.
Okay.
But because of the year here, it's
a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I got to experience them nonetheless. A great hike. Definitely changed my perspective. And we can talk about this. Just someone coming from the Minneapolis area thinking they understand what elevation gain looks like over a long hike. Taking that to 3,000-ish vertical feet. Definitely eye-opening and kind of sets my perspective for sure for any future hikes.
We're back. We are back live, ladies and gentlemen.
So I kind of covered a lot, though, during our little intermission there. I know we left off on the Yellowstone supervolcano.
They're going to have to go to the podcast and actually listen to it.
Tune in. Monday.
Maybe.
When this hits.
Depending on how many Snake River Pale Ales we have tonight. It might be like a Monday afternoon release. Who knows?
We only have, 2 more cold ones, and then we got to break into the warm beers.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. Beers of the Brown
is
on.
Get that thing to stand up straight.
What's up? Is that good? Yeah, you're in there.
I think it looks great.
Yeah, so let's talk about that hike. So yeah, like you said, we hiked from the bottom of the ski resort to the gondola, which is like 3/4 of the way up.
Yep.
Walk us through what you and Darren were feeling and thinking as you needed breaks, all the times you needed breaks.
It was challenging. Literally, as we started from the parking lot, about not even a quarter mile in, I'm already realizing that my heart rate is getting up there.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be a challenging day. and we were
I knew it when you were quiet.
Well,
they were quiet. Ryan came into this thing. He was talking some shit. He was saying that he's going to beat me up this thing and whatever hike we did. And I'm just like, all right, like you don't even know anything about anything. I literally climbed the Middle Teton on Wednesday with my brother, and you're going to say that you're going to dust me doing anything here. Okay, and we are back from a little bathroom break. Had to refill the beer selection.
We're building a little pyramid here.
We're back. Yeah, nice little pyramid of some Snake River Pale Ales. As you can see how easily it's going down. This shit is delicious.
It is delicious. The review stands. The find and drink review, it stands.
I don't think you gave like a score on that. You need to score it.
So I'll tell you, I don't want to score.
No, you need to score things.
I don't want to score beers.
You have to.
I don't want to score beers. I want to tell people, find it and drink it. This is what to expect. Go out there and enjoy it. Have it.
Well, you can say, but here's the thing. You said all the words that describe the flavor.
Yeah.
But
it is a well done pale ale. It's well done. It is in a category of,
so what he's saying, folks,
I will drink it again.
What he's saying is this is like a 7.8.
I wouldn't argue with that, except that it has won many awards.
Yeah.
Which probably puts it higher than a 7.8.
Interesting.
And I would probably rate it, if I were to give it a rating, if I was to rate the beer, I would probably rate it higher than that. But they've already won awards for the beer. So it's an award-winning beer, and I can't like say it's less or more than that. Find it and drink it.
I think for the success of if you want anything to do, if you want Beers with the Browns to do anything, you have to give a number.
Can I be...
People's attention spans are not long enough to read or listen to the entire description you have.
No. The 20-word description that I put for a beer.
Marketing statistics say people's attention spans are either, like, no joke, 3 seconds or like 2 hours.
Which is why movies are 2 hours.
And Joe Rogan's podcasts are 2 hours. And Tyler Meany's podcast is just past 2 hours.
Yeah, we might hit 3 hours tonight. We don't know.
Oh no, wait, this is 2 minutes. We're over 2 hours
We're
though.
at an hour and 50.
Yeah.
Past the break. So that was almost perfect to put
But
it
that's
there.
what statistics say. It's
Sure.
either like
Sure.
couple seconds, like get the hit in.
So I get that, but
Or longer.
everybody rates beers. Everybody. Beer Advocate. Everybody's putting out ratings for a beer. I just want to tell you what a beer tastes like and what I'm drinking. What's in my fridge this week that I'm drinking, that I'm excited about, that a brewery just came out with. There's so many new releases, and this is what I love about drinking beer is that you know how people say, "Oh, I love to live in the place that I live because it has every season. It has summer, fall, winter, spring. Like you can do everything. You can be a 4-season athlete, a 4-season adventurer person, whatever. You love all the seasons. I love all the seasons of beer. We're coming into Oktoberfest. Like
Oktoberfest,
this is fall
pumpkin
season.
beers.
We're getting to pumpkin beers, which I know some people don't like pumpkin beers. If it's done well and it's done right, a pumpkin beer can take you in a whole other direction of beer. That's me, man.
Now that you said, I'm excited for Oktoberfests.
Yeah.
It's one of those beers. So I'm a big seasonal drinker.
Yeah.
Where my tastes kind of just go with the seasons or like kind of with the weather, basically.
Yep.
Outside of a few staples. Like as we get into fall and Oktoberfest, like I'll hammer Oktoberfests.
Yeah.
But then like, winter hits and I'm like, what, I'm done with those.
Yeah.
Now it's like porters,
stouts,
Guinness. There's a couple beer bars around here that do Guinness
brown
on
ales.
tap.
Yeah.
I'll hammer those after a day of skiing. Then it comes down to spring and you get into like the lighter things and some seltzers.
Yeah. The dog days of summer hit. You're drinking Hefeweizens, Pilsners, really light, refreshing
Yeah,
beers.
like some like Bud Lights, Coors Lights, like some of the non-craft ones.
Those two. But there's also craft beers that really fill the nice summer months.
Yes. There are.
Good beer. Maybe let's not even say craft beer. Let's just say good and bad beer.
Is there? There is bad beer.
Craft beer, good.
My barometer
Mass produced.
or my range for good and bad beer is quite wide.
That's fair.
Have you had Red Dog?
Yes, I have.
That's bad beer.
That's bad beer.
That's about where my line is.
That's good. At least you have a line somewhere. I'm glad you can point to somewhere and say, this is where I draw the line. At dog shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been in college. Like, I've had all the shitty college beers. Have had Milwaukee Light, Milwaukee's Best, all of them.
Slamming hams.
Yeah, hams. Yeah. Hey, so hams is actually an interesting story. Being a St. Paul guy, I lived in St. Paul for 2 years. Hams used to be considered like more of like a high quality beer when it was hot. And they redid the ingredients to kind of make it cheaper.
Yeah.
To make the creation process cheaper.
Right.
And it turned out to make it shitty.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's just been trash or like this niche thing that like hipsters in St. Paul like.
It definitely harkens back to early kind of what beer in America looked like early on as a commercial beverage, like coming out of the 70s, before the mid 90s, when you started to see Samuel Adams, Sierra Nevada, some of these more now well-known breweries that were really craft breweries when they first started.
Yeah.
Before, in that large void of multiple decades, there was the Budweisers, the Coors, and the hams was the local favorite where we grew up. And so that still definitely stays today, where you can look back and say, okay, that meant something in the past. It kind of harkens back to that. Obviously, hipsters tend to do that with clothing, very ironic, spend a lot of money to look like it's dirt cheap, things like that. But They can do that with beer too. So
Yeah, there was an added layer to that where my house in St. Paul was like a mile away from the old Hams
was it really?
brewing location or
Wow.
factory.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like you drive. There's a small brewery there now. It's shit. We need to look this up. There's a small brewery in there, and they do it's like a fun brewery scene. But this factory is like enormous. It's like you drive. There's
Was
a road
it Summit?
No, Summit's on the west side. This is on
Okay.
the east side
Okay.
of St. Paul, and you drive it's in such an enormous building. Like there's just a normal road that kind of goes through the middle of it, and it's like you're driving like past Willy Wonka's chocolate factory because it's like
Is it still a beer operation today? Is it like Schmidt's or
no, not that one.
Shell's? Shell's is down south, I think.
Shields is like New Ulm.
Right.
No, this is east side. Like they don't do any hams there anymore, but they have another brewery there. I'll look this up.
Yeah.
Because it is a good brewery that's there now, but they don't really they'd make their own shit. Like it's not really connected. Hams.
I want to put a marker here and just say, let's get back on the Hams Brewery. Yeah, founded. Yeah, 1800. So I was even way off when I said in the 60s. I should have said the 1860s.
Yeah.
So I missed it by a century.
Yeah, so this building.
We're looking at some St. Paul architecture.
Classic, that bear.
Yeah, where Tyler used to live. Over in St. Paul, the other side of the river from me. So you're saying it's a Hams brewery building that you were near?
Yeah, this building we're looking at.
Okay.
Not Can Wonderland.
I don't think that's a real thing. That could be like a rendering of a development.
This building we're looking at right here is the original Hams Brewery.
Sure.
Where it was all made when it was at its hottest.
Yeah.
And it was half a mile from my house.
Scroll down on this one, the Wikipedia page. Is that it right there in
This is the
Swede
picture.
Hollow?
Swede Hollow, yeah.
Swede Hollow.
That's one of the park sidewalk bridges.
So it's a neighborhood in St. Paul.
Yeah.
And that was in what year did that start? 1865?
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah, so I missed it by a century. My Minnesota beer history. So.
Dude, St. Paul is like sneakily kind of like this historical beer city. Like, so I'm going to give up on looking on this. It'll come to me. I'll look on Untapped after we're done.
Yeah.
Where I would walk Bridger like daily, it was an old railroad switching yard.
Sure.
In St. Paul that they turned into a park. They took out like the concrete and the rails and everything. It's just a park, like really close to downtown. We just walked there, and there were these caves there. And these caves, there were some that were natural, and then some that were like kind of man augmented, I guess you could say. And these caves were where a brewery in like the 1850s would keep their beer cool during the brewing process.
Yeah. Wow.
And then there was like a building on top of this little bluff there that they would like, sell it out of to the railroad workers.
Yeah.
And then that brewery turned into like Jacob Schmidt of Schmidt's brewery bought it and moved it across town to where like the Schmidt's apartments are.
Yeah.
Like with it's like the old brewing place with the Schmidt's brewing sign on it. But that's what this came from. So this is like the oldest brewery in like Minnesota or like, something crazy. Like,
yeah, I think
they were right here.
Shell's is the only one I think that's under its original ownership.
Yeah.
And that's the oldest. I think Hams has traded hands multiple times.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Shell's is the oldest brewery.
Yeah, okay.
In Minnesota. Started in
1860.
1860.
Hams was 1865.
Yeah.
So beat him by 5 years.
see if you can find this. This is all very, very hearsay, but like to just be walking around, and this is all nonsense.
Doesn't come up with a good answer.
Just be walking my dog around, and I see these caves, and there's like a plaque there. It's just like this.
Yorgs.
This cave was used in the 1850s to keep beer cool.
Right.
And it's not like there's homeless people living around it, and it's like there's nothing really like notable about it. It's just like a thing in the hill. It's not like a tourist attraction or nothing. I'm just like, this is kind of weird. This should be more important.
Yeah, you'd think they could find out a way. Immediately goes to mind, like, imagine a tap room built into a cave. How cool would that be?
Oh yeah, read this. Schmidt Brewery.
Yeah,
so,
founded in 1855. But I'm assuming that it eventually...
Read through it?
Well, do we need to read for our listeners?
Yes, we do.
Founded in 1855, the Schmidt Brewery went through numerous names, owners, and head brewers before it claimed the success we know it for today. The story began in 1855 with the Stallman family, a proud family of German heritage who named their business the Cave Brewery.
The Cave Brewery.
See it linking back. For its unique location in a natural cave, which provided a cool and dry place to lager beer.
Yes.
If we know our beer brewing process, lagering beers requires a lower temperature than ale beers.
I didn't know that was a verb, I'll be honest.
Yeah, so when you look at like Corona, Boston Lager, the Vienna Lager that Snake River Brewing makes, the fermentation temperature that beer needs to be at is much lower than other beers which are classified as ales, which are like your stouts, porters, pale ales, and things like that. And that all has to do with the yeast that's in beer. So there's lager yeast and ale yeast. If there's someone smarter than me out there that says I'm wrong, please correct us at some point. But from my understanding, that's what it is. But anyways, do you want me to continue reading?
Let's see anything else.
I think we're good.
For its unique location in a natural cave. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the one.
Yeah.
Stallman Brewery or Stallman family. Because that park is like part of it connected to the river, and now there's a railroad that cuts it off. But back then they can make it in the caves and just transport it via river, like right there, because there's a lot of like barges and shipping boats right around there, even today.
Look up Google in another tab the original name for St. Paul.
Sorry, look at this. Soon Jacob Schmidt, a brewer from rival Hams Brewing. Did you know this?
Corporate espionage.
Took over as the company's master brewer. The brewery became popular almost immediately and began competing directly with Hams, making Schmidt a well-known icon on the city's west side.
Corporate espionage in the early mid 1850s.
Yeah. That's wild.
Look up the original name of St. Paul, or what was going to be the original capital of Minnesota. I think it's a pretty interesting answer. As Tyler's typing that out.
She says St. Paul.
Okay, type in Pig's Eye.
That's like a...
Just add it on to the end. Add it on to the end.
Oh, crap. So this is the name of like a part of St. Paul.
So St. Paul originally was going to be known as Pig's Eye.
Yeah.
And that was going to be the capital of what was the territory of Minnesota. So if you've ever been to St. Paul, to the Pig's Eye, I think it's either a brewery or a bar.
A bar.
That is named after the supposedly first name of the capital of Minnesota, the first settlement in Minnesota, Pig's Eye.
Yeah, and there's a lake named after it too.
Yeah,
just south of downtown.
So anyone listening, if you ever are involved in some Minnesota trivia, I hope you win on that one. Win on Pig's Eye.
People also asked, what U.S. city was called Pig's Eye? Oh, yeah. This is what you just said here.
Right.
Operated a tavern in what became known as St. Paul, Minnesota. So it was a tavern in this settlement that didn't really have a name called the Pig's Eye.
Yeah.
That went on to be named St. Paul. That's insane.
Yeah.
That they're about to name a state capital after a bar.
It's Minnesota, man.
It's Minnesota, man.
That's America, man.
Yeah. That's wild.
That is wild.
All right. Where else should we go?
Well, we were starting to get into before, we spent part of our day-to-day at Stillworks. And,
we got to talk about them.
Kind of like the craft distillery scene, kind of what they are doing. I'm wearing a T-shirt, well, I was earlier, to the Stillworks of the Outer Banks distillery, which does mostly rum. And so seeing that and how that operation compared to the Stillworks here in Jackson was pretty awesome because they're super similar in size. Mm-hmm. I mean, just the one still, they got to make many batches every day. They have a small barrel aging operation. Yeah. But the amount that, because we counted it up, they had some different alcohols being barreled, and looking at the number of bottles that were actually there was pretty awesome. And it's just seeing the scope that you can get, or the reach that you can get with a small operation like that is really awesome, because we were watching them take the shipment of corn and feed it in to get that ground down. And as you and I know, that all came from one farm. I think it's in Wyoming, or I think you know better than me, that shipment of corn. But just to see how these small little batches of ingredients is all of a sudden alcohol that everybody can enjoy. And we saw a lot of people come up today and get sloshies, which we got to talk about sloshies, because what I wanted to tie that back to is that my favorite refreshing summer beverage is a Mai Tai. I had one every day on my honeymoon in Hawaii.
What even is a Mai Tai?
A Mai Tai is, I know how to make it with a mix. So a Mai Tai mix is different fruit juices. You could look it up. You could Google it.
I'll Google it.
With light and dark rum and some fruit kind of for decoration. And so I had one every day in Hawaii. I love them. They're refreshing in the summer. And that's not how you spell Mai Tai.
How do you spell the Thai part?
T
or any of it actually.
I
thought it was Thai, from Thailand.